Okay, so we're going to create a simple animated GIF today. It's going to be a transparent background animated GIF like this. Simple bouncy logo that we can upload to Giphy. So we're going to start by going into After Effects. We're going to create a new composition. We're going to call this comp logo. 800 by 800 is good. We'll give it 20 frames per second and 1 second long, and that should be good. Click OK. We're going to want to drag a logo into that timeline. So we'll drag this logo right into that timeline. And we want to resize it. So we're going to click on these and drag them and then hit the shift button to keep it proportional. And that's where we're going to want it to be at the top. And it's going to bounce up and down. So let's animate this a little bit. We'll come into transform. We'll go to position, and it's only going to go up and down, so we don't need the X position. We only need the Y. So we're going to separate the dimensions and click on Y position, and it's going to start off screen. So at 0, we're going to drag it down. Let's see, we'll start right there. And again, we just need the Y position. So click the stopwatch for Y. And this is where it's going to start. This is also where it's going to end. So I'm just going to do a Control-C to copy that. And I'm going to drag my playhead to the end. And then Control-V to paste. So this, the beginning and the end are the exact same. And then we're going to come here to the middle. And put a playhead in the middle. And then we're just going to drag that up. And we're going to hit the Shift key again to keep it in line. And so now we have an animated logo. It's going to go up and down. Now I want it to be more of a bouncy feel. So what I'm going to do, stop that. And we're going to select the Y position, just the Y. And then I'm going to go to the graph editor. And now you can see it's just straight lines. It goes up, down. We want to give that more of a rounded feel. So I'm going to select that keyframe, and I'm going to come over here to easy ease. And now you can see it's kind of more of a curve, and we play that, and it's more of a bouncy feel. But I want it to kind of hover at the top just a little bit longer. So I'm going to click these handles and drag them out both sides. So now it kind of just hangs at the top for just a half a second before it starts coming down. It gives that more of a feeling of an actual bounce. Perfect. So now I want to, it looks okay going off the screen, but I want to draw a little line here and make it look like it's disappearing into the line. And to do that, we're going to create another composition. And I'm going to do that by taking the logo composition and dragging it down to the new composition button and releasing. Now it creates logo 2. And let's rename that to bouncy logo. Okay. And so we created that new composition, and it automatically, because we dragged the logo, it automatically created that logo composition inside the bouncy composition. So we can see it's all right there. So let's draw a line. And the first thing we want to do is make sure nothing is selected. So nothing is selected, and so now when we click on this rectangle tool, we can actually draw a line. Well, we can draw a rectangle. So we'll draw that rectangle just like that. So now when we play it, well, we want it to disappear into that line. So to do that, we're going to add a mask. So this time we're going to select logo and come up to the rectangle tool. And now, because we have something selected, it's going to automatically create a mask. So I'm going to come up here and select everything right up until that line. And so there we go. So now we've created a mask. And what the mask means is anything inside the mask will be visible, anything outside will be hidden. So as we go down, it's going to disappear. So play it. There we go. Simple bouncing logo. Okay, so now I'm going to export this as a GIF. And so I've used GIF GIF gun for a while. It's a $30 tool. It's super simple, but recently, after Adobe has added the GIF into Media Encoder, so we'll show you that way. So we're going to go Composition, and we want to add to Adobe Media Encoder Queue. You see it creates there an animated GIF. If it's not selected, you can just select it, and we can match source. We can click on it and make some changes. We'll use maximum render quality. I think that's about the only change we'll make. And we'll save this. We'll go bouncy logo, and we'll click OK, and then just click play, and boom, quick and easy. And so now if I come in here, bouncy logo, GIF, there it is. Super simple. So that's a pretty quick way to make an animated GIF. And so there you go. Okay, so I'm going to show you now how to create a basic intro video title sequence that you can add in front of your videos, and I'm going to show you how to make that in Essential Graphics, so it's super easy to use in Adobe Premiere. So let's start with a new composition, and let's just go make this 1920 by 1080, and let's make this 2997. We're good, and let's make it 3 seconds long. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is create a background, and so I'm going to do that by adding a new solid. So new solid, and that color is pretty good. We'll just leave that one right there. Alright, so there's a solid background. I want it to have a little more texture to it, so I'm going to add a vignette effect to it. And the easiest way to do that is to come up to Layer, New, Adjustment Layer. Okay, with Adjustment Layer selected, we're going to go to Effect, Color Correction, and I want Exposure. So there we go. So now exposure. And so now I can come to exposure and I can bring that up or down. And I'm going to just go to -2 for now. And so that brings that a little darker. And then I'm going to use a layer mask. So I've got the adjustment layer selected. I'm going to come up here to Ellipse tool. And if I click it twice, it's going to apply it. So there we go. And now I want the dark to be on the outside. So on my layer mask, I'm going to select inverted. So that's going to flip the layer mask, and in the previous tutorial we showed anything in the layer mask is visible, anything outside is not, and inverted just switches that. And so now the other thing we want to do is we want to feather that. So I'm going to come into my mask, and I'm going to go to feather, and I'm just going to feather that a bit. And there we go. So now we have a little more depth to our background. Alright, so let's start adding some text. Click on our text tool, and this is going to be our title text, and so I'm just going to start with women's cross country, because this is women's cross country is the longest sport we have, and so I'm just going to use that as a sample title. Okay, and then let's draw a line, and so I'm going to come back up to the rectangle tool. I want to make sure nothing is selected, so I'm not doing a mask. I'm just doing a line. I'm going to make that super thin. There we go. Alright, and then now we're going to add some more text. We'll just go down here and say, hey, this is a longer subtitle. Let's take that font and let's bring it down to 100. That's good. That's a good subtitle right there. And then now let's create a third one. This is an even longer, super long subtitle. Okay, so let's take that, and let's make that 80, and let's go Franklin Gothic book, and let's go even smaller, maybe 60. There we go. That looks good. So now we've got our title, subtitle, and a tertiary title if we need it. Let's add a logo in. So let's bring this logo. Oops. Whoa, what is going on? There we go, caps lock. Alright, so there we go. We've got a basic title. Now let's animate this title. Now, what I want to do to start this animation is I want to bring this line in from the top, and as it comes in, I want it to reveal the title. So let's start with that layer right there, and let's go to transform. Let's go position. That's actually where we want it to end. So we'll drag that out 10 frames and we'll drag that up. Okay, and so now you see as it comes in, it comes down. Alright, so now in order to make that women's cross country be hidden until it passes by, what we're going to do is we're going to create a layer mask over women's cross country. So let's find the title, which is right here, and with it selected, I'm going to come up to my rectangle, and I'm just going to highlight all of that, right, just like that. Okay, and now I want to animate that, so mask, we're going to select mask path right there, and we're going to come back to the beginning, right there, and then I'm going to drag that mask up a little bit so that it's right with that line. So there we go. As it comes down with that. So there we go. There's a simple title reveal. Now let's animate these pieces in. So let's come to our both of those. Open our transform. And so let's say there, let's go to here. Let's say this is where we want it to end. So we'll click on position there and position there in both of those. And we want it to start when that one finishes. So we'll come here and let's drag this off to this side. And we want to drag it a decent ways, just so if we have something super long, it doesn't peek in there at the end. And then come this one, and we'll drag this one off the ways too. And so now, let's see what it looks like. Super. Now, let's animate that logo in. And so I'm going to make that logo spin in. And I'm going to start that spin right here. So let's minimize that. Let's get that logo and come into transform. Actually, what I want to do is I want to transform that in 3 dimensions. So I'm going to check this little box here. It looks like a 3-dimensional square. And when we do that, it's going to add some more things we can modify. And I want to modify the Y rotation. Okay, so I'm going to start. It's going to start at 90, and it's going to end, let's say, right here at 0. So, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I want to start here. I want to start at 90, and let's click the stopwatch to give us our keyframe, and then I want it to end here at 0. Okay, so now we've got our 2 keyframes. And that animates in, but it animates slowly. I want it to spin around a couple times. So let's start at 90. And see, we've got this angle, And we also have this x value. The x value is how many times it's going to spin. And so let's make it 2. So there we go. Perfect. Now the only kind of caveat is that line kind of shows there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to come to that spot where it starts to animate in, and I'm just going to hold down the Alt key and open bracket, open square bracket. And now you see it's trimmed that. So I don't see it, it's not even visible until that point. So if we play it, perfect. So that's a decent little animation slide intro. Now what we need to do is we need to have a transition from this into our video, and you could do a fade or whatnot, but let's do something a little fancier. And so let's get out of effects. Let's go into our project, and let's create a new comp. Create a new comp, and let's call this transition. And let's make this just 1 second long. We'll make it 2 seconds long. And so what I want to do is make some shapes that kind of gradually come in, and at some point the whole screen will be covered, and that's when we make we change from our title graphic to the video. So let's make this here, there, and let's go to rectangle, transform rectangle, and let's skew that by 20. Okay, perfect. And then let's actually make it a little bit bigger so it does cover the whole thing. Okay, so we've got one of these. So let's take that, control copy, control paste. So now I have 2 of these, and I want to start them both off screen. So there's 1, there's 2. So they're both off screen. Let's go down to transform. Okay, so let's start with this one right here, transform. Let's make that position. Click on the timeline, and then do it the same with the other. And then let's go maybe a second. And then let's just swap those. So that comes there. And then that comes there. And so now, as we do that, you can see it's completely covered. At that point right there is when we're going to switch what's behind them. Perfect. So let's actually shorten that up a little bit. So we'll take these and let's make those. How about this? That's a little too fast. Maybe 25. Okay, that's good. So let's minimize those. Now let's take another one of these and let's copy and paste it. But let's change the color on this one to, let's come to my libraries. Let's change the color to maybe, well, let's go, yeah, we'll go this one right here. This color right there. Okay, perfect. And let's open up our transform. Let's just get rid of those for now. Let's make this smaller. So when we come to our contents, rectangle, transform rectangle. Oh, actually, I don't even need to do that. So I'm just gonna. Well, yeah. See what happens there? It smushes it. So let's skew. Let's go 100, go 0. So let's make this a little bit smaller, and then we'll skew it back to 20. So we're here, and then we'll come into position there. And then bring it over here. So now we've got some lines. Perfect. And you could add a couple more of those just to kind of give it some more. Let's make this, and let's change that to white. And then let's come back into that. Transform here, maybe there. Alright, so there's just some transition. Alright, so we've got that. So let's come back into our comp 1, and let's bring that comp into this comp. So we've come here, we've animated, we've held for a second. Let's come in at 2 seconds. Let's bring the transition in right there. Right there. And we want it to start right there. Okay. And so let's watch the whole thing. There. Okay, perfect. So now you can see everything clears, and at this point right here, when everything is blocked, that's when we want to hide everything else. So what we can do, we can come here and we can just select all the layers except the top one, and then hold Alt and click the close square bracket. And you can see it trims those down. So now we've got our intro, opens out to nothing. And that's where our video would appear. Alright, so we've got a pretty good intro that we can use right now. So now let's make it an essential graphics. So if you don't have it already, you can Window and then Essential Graphics. And so I want to select the composition, and I'm going to select Comp 1. And let's bring this over in the timeline. Okay, so that's what we want our preview to be. So we're going to set poster time. And let's call this, we're going to call this CS intro. And I can click this solo supported properties button, and that's going to open just the things that I'm able to drag in here. And what I want to drag in here is just the text fields. And so I want the source text. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. And I can rearrange these. Give them new titles. So it's title, subtitle, description. Alright, so now when we bring in these into After Effects, these will be the things that we can edit. And so I'm going to export motion graphics template. Needs to be saved first. Let's save this. Let's go call it intro project. Okay, so we've saved it. And so now this is our motion graphics template export. We can choose where we want to export it to. If you use libraries, that's a good place to export it to, so that it will appear in your library. So anytime you're logged into Adobe CC, you'll have access to it. And so if you're in a team and you're sharing libraries, it's a good way to easily share this template. I'm going to just do local drive for this purposes. Or not local drive, local templates folder. And I want to warn me if the graphics template uses fonts that are not available from Adobe Fonts. And basically what that means, if it's a font that's not in Adobe Fonts, the system needs to have that font installed. Warn me if After Effects needs to be installed to use motion graphics, and warn me if there are text or controls that cannot be edited with the Premiere Pro type tool. Alright, let's give it some keywords. I'm just going to give it a keyword CS. We'll click OK. And it's going to verify the fonts, and it says 2 fonts were not synced with Adobe. And that's fine in this case because it's just on this computer, and I know this computer has those. So I'll click OK. Now I'm going to come into Adobe Premiere. And so I have this project open, and it's just a video in a sequence. And if I come in here, let's hide that. So if I come in here to Graphics, and Windows Essential Graphics. Okay, so I've got my Essential Graphics, and I want to search for that. I'm going to search for CS. Enter, and there it is right there. And so all I have to do is take this and drag this into my timeline. Give me a second. And so now I have that template. Perfect. Now let's just, and you can see it actually lines up pretty well when it comes out into the video. Now I want to make sure I want to edit that text, and so I can just come in here and say baseball, and then I can say Puget Sound. Oops. Come back. Baseball and Puget Sound highlights. And in this case, I don't want a description, so I'll just delete that. So now, there we go. Or I could add a description. There we go. We've got a simple, easy to edit template intro video. And so it's super easy to create some template, create a video, and then just quickly add that to the front of every video you create in Premiere.